Well, the state of Oklahoma dropped the ball on compliance and oversight. That's a quote from State Auditor Cindy Byrd following the federal single audit of expenditures made during fiscal year 2021. She joins us now to break down the findings and what this all means. Good morning, and thanks for being here with us.
Good morning.
So I just said a lot of words. So for people at home, let's talk about this audit, what it is and what it is that you're looking for in the simplest terms so that we all understand.
Okay, so this is an audit that we are required to do every year. The federal government requires this. We report back on how the state of Oklahoma spent the federal funds that were sent to the state. And so normally this is an audit report that gets put on a shelf. No one pays much attention to it. But this year I felt the need to bring attention to the citizens of this state that we are trending in the wrong direction. The amount of question cost, which is the funds that were not spent correctly, is rising. And this year it rose to $29.9 million. And the thing that citizens need to know is that when the state of Oklahoma does not spend those funds correctly, the federal government can make us pay those back, and it would be the taxpayers on the hook to pay it back.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk more about that, but let's get to into the audit here a little bit. You did find a lot of questionable costs, that's what it's called, right?
Yes.
And you have to report that. So let's kind of break down some of your findings, starting with maybe what you found with the spending with the CARES Act.
Okay, so the state of Oklahoma normally spends around $7 billion in federal expenditures each year. For this year under audit, it rose to $14 billion. So it was a lot of money that we had to audit and look at. Related to the CARES funds, we found that the state of Oklahoma for that year had spent $1.1 billion in expenditures, and we questioned $12.2 million. And the reason we questioned those funds is because the state of Oklahoma did not ensure that supporting documentation was available to make sure those expenditures were made for COVID-related purposes, and that the state of Oklahoma received the goods or services they paid for.
Now, who is responsible? I do want to go over some of the other findings, but who is responsible for how this money is spent?
Well, the federal grants are dispersed among the different state agencies. So different state agencies are responsible for each of these different federal programs. At the heart of this whole message was that we do not have people who are trained in the administration of federal grants to oversee these funds to make sure we're spending them correctly. So it is at the responsibility of the state agencies.
One of the things that I noticed in the audit that is of concern, especially for a lot of our parents here in the state, the emergency education relief programs. This was from the governor that was issued during the pandemic, the stay in school program specifically. You found that 65% of this budget was questionable. That is a large amount. What happened here?
On the stay in school funds, it was one of the programs developed through the GEAR funds that were sent to the state to address the learning at home and during the pandemic, how students were going to continue their education. So the stay in school program, it was meant to assist families pay their portion of their tuition expense to keep their child in their existing private school. Now, to obtain those funds, parents had to attest that they had suffered a financial hardship due to COVID. And what we found as we looked at this, there was a date that was offered to the general public for the submission date, and it was on a first come, first served basis. We found that this date was opened up early for preferential schools and preferential individuals. And a lot of those funds, 20%, was awarded prior to the general public being able to apply for those funds. And then further, of course, the funds were meant to help low-income families. And we found that over 1,000 families had attested that they had not suffered a financial hardship, yet they were awarded these funds, leaving 657 students of families who had attested that they had suffered a financial hardship without any assistance because the funds had been exhausted.
Continuing on education here, there was also the collection of student data from outside parties. What happened with that? There was an issue with that as well, right?
Well, we found this very alarming. The individuals who had been put in charge to make the rules and direct these funds were not operating under any kind of a contract that we have found. So it was outside special interest individuals making the decisions, and they chose to also collect information as to whether or not a child had an IEP or a disability. And then we did find that they asked a for the information to be used for other purposes other than the administering of the grant.
Okay. Now let's talk about, after you report this questionable spending, what happens next with the federal government? What do they need to do next?
Well, we have already reported. The minute that we release the report, we also release that to the federal government so that they know exactly what we found. At that point, it is all up to the federal government as to whether or not they will come in and ask for the state of Oklahoma to repay any of these funds. Now, what's important to remember is that last year, the federal government came in early and requested $650,000 back of the GEAR funds because they had found inappropriate expenditures for Christmas trees, TVs, etc., things that had nothing to do with education related expenses. We know that the federal government did a very high level desk review. They knew that we would be doing this very in-depth audit. So now that we have reported this back, it is very likely that those funds will have to be repaid.
And then you mentioned if that happens, the state is going to bring that cost to the taxpayer.
Well, ultimately, it is the taxpayers who will bear this burden. If the state of Oklahoma has to pay back those funds, it will come from the taxes that we as citizens pay.
I'm just here learning a little bit more about this. Attorney General Drummond says that he's not ruling out charges for state leaders in connection to this audit. Can you speak on this at all? What do you know about this?
Well, I can't speak on behalf of AG Drummond, but he did request my office to start an investigative audit into the GEAR funds. So my group has met internally and we are starting that immediately.
Okay, a lot of information here, important information for Oklahoma. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming in, breaking it down for us and making it a little bit easier to understand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.